Shrine of the Mother. Prayer to the living dead who once shared this life. O good and innocent dead, hear us. Hear us. Hear us, you guiding, all-knowing ancestors. You are neither blind nor deaf to this life we live. You did yourself once share it. Help us, therefore, for the sake of our devotion and for our good. Recent parapsychological research is exploring the phenomenon of life after life. People who were clinically dead have returned with noteworthy reports. These people are able to recount accurately events that took place during their dead time. They can report the details of complex procedures, such as surgery, which took place while they were out of the body. They consistently report having gone to a place of light. There they meet and converse with people, particularly relatives, whom they knew to be dead for years. Most of the conversation's content tells the body-free soul why it must return to Earth. These people also report a change for the better in the quality of their inner life after they return. I maintain that these people have stepped into the realm of Yemiya Olukun, the place where the surviving creative intelligence of the known ancestors meets the greatest of forces of nature, the womb of the single cell, the bottom of the sea. There she holds in her hands the great serpent, Jambalaya Hoodoo, the representative of all the unknown ancestors. Through Olukun and Dambala, the descendants is given access to the knowledge and experiences of all the people who have lived before. C.G. Jung worked to identify memories and images that appear to come from outside the individual's experience, such as past life memories. He identified a place between individual consciousness and the collective unconscious, and sometimes referred to it as racial consciousness. The psyche consists of not only the contents of consciousness, which can be said to derive from sensory impressions, but also ideas which seem to rest upon peculiarly altered sense of perception. Sense perceptions which are modified by a prior, pure, and unconscious pre-existing formative element. For example, by the archetypes. This insight leads us to the conclusion that one part of the psyche may be explained through recent causes, but that another part reaches back to the deepest layers of racial history. Those layers of racial history that reside within your own consciousness know how the pyramids were built. Those layers have recorded all occurrences born of human minds and human hands since the beginning of time, and time is no barrier. We could therefore say that every mother contains her daughter in herself, and every daughter her mother, and that every woman extends backwards into her mother and forward into her daughter. This participation and intermingling give rise to that peculiar uncertainty as regards time. The conscious experience of these ties produces the feeling that her life is spread out over generations, the first step towards the immediate experience and conviction of being outside time, which brings with it a feeling of immortality. The individual's life is elevated into a type. Indeed, it becomes the archetype. This leads to restoration of the lives of her ancestors, who now, through the bridge of the momentary individual, pass down into the generations of the future. Jung thus substantiates the African view on the importance of the ancestors. Although time is no barrier, reluctance and the inability to put the conscious mind in attunement with the racial consciousness and eventually with the collective unconscious are stumbling blocks. Why would we be reluctant to know how the pyramids of Egypt were built? If we applied this knowledge with integrity, We could revolutionize the preservation of foodstuffs and possibly end world hunger. Why? Why is the process for making true stained glass dead? Or more practically, it would be a great aid to contemporary women to know the natural birth control secrets of their foremothers. The reluctance is based on fear of the unknown, yet many things presently known to us were once unknown. Aerodynamics, for example, and the planet Pluto. Once these things are made known to us in the form of ideas based on intuition, we can make practical use of them. But we have conditioned fear of the non-material. We fear it will get out of control. This is true. But suppression is not control. Jung believes that the nature of the unconscious mind is such that if a problem exists that is not being solved, the collective unconscious will demand a resolution. This resolution may be positive or negative. It may be the reformation of society or nuclear holocaust. Our choice, tea or poison. The real question becomes, how do we get access to and maintain a balanced relationship with these layers of consciousness? Here, the ancestors act as intermediaries. Your conscious mind is the rational layer. It speaks and acts with absolute purpose. You say, I'm going to walk across the room. And you put one foot in front of the other until you get there. While you're walking, your heart is pumping blood and your cells are reproducing in your body. It works without your speaking to it. It is being run by the subconscious mind. This layer does not speak directly as the conscious mind does, but should it tell your heart to tighten, you will become consciously aware of the pain in your chest. You can, however, talk to the subconscious and instruct it in the will of the conscious mind, and it will send back to the conscious mind a child, an idea that solves a problem. But where does this subconscious get its information from? How does it know that it's possible to build a machine that will fly? It contacts the racial consciousness, the surviving intelligence of our ascendants, who watched flying occur for generations and desire to do the same. Those ancestors then turn to the wind goddess, who lives as an archetype for flying in the collective unconscious. She hands an idea to the ancestor, who filters it through her experience of watching things fly. The ancestor hands it to the subconscious mind and an idea charged with emotion, highly desirous of birth. That package is handed to the conscious mind in a burst of inspiration. To inspire is to breathe life into. To expire is to die. And the conscious mind causes the hands to draw a blueprint that weld layers of metal together. Sometimes the ancestors deem certain information so important that they send it to the subconscious mind without being consciously asked. Then we have prophetic dreams rich in symbolism and unforgettable. They linger with us until we recognize their importance, analyze their symbolism, and act on their content, do something about their meaning. Many people are frightened by the idea of interacting with spirits. This is because of a confused association with ghost. Let us make a distinction. To the trained parapsychologist, ghosts are similar to psychotic human beings, incapable of reasoning for themselves or taking much action. Spirits, on the other hand, are the surviving personalities of all of us who die in a reasonably normal fashion. A spirit is capable of continuing a full existence in the next dimension, to think, reason, feel, and in the next dimension to think, and act, while his unfortunate colleague, the ghost, can do none of those things. This is one reason why suicides were not revered in Africa. It is possible to contact ghosts, but that is not our purpose here. Our purpose is to contact the spirits of our ancestors, kindred spirits, in order to get their guidance, protection, and healing so that we may be better able to create a better world. Unfortunately, some people who come to mediumship and mediumistic work are frequently impressed with the phenomena associated with ghost, table rapping, and ectoplasm. However, such phenomena seldom carry with them practical information for solving problems of the real world. Contact with spirits, on the other hand, may take a variety of less dramatic forms, such as signs and omens, dreams, and water-gazing visions. Partial and full possession can occur with the ancestors, but we will restrict ourselves to light trance. For the person who is concerned with the quality of the messages received from spirit, attunement with your ancestors is more important than table rapping. The ancestors function as guides, warriors, and healers. The guides are our travel consultants on the road of life. They help us to make major decisions, advise us on what to do, when, and with whom. The warriors defend us in times of trouble. They give us courage and strength to face up to fearful situations. It is important to have a good relationship with the warriors because they teach us the difference between caution and cowardice, between courage and foolhardiness. They protect us both by steering us away from danger and by providing us a feeling of confidence when a perilous situation must be faced. The healers help us maintain our physical, emotional, and mental health in a number of ways. Sometimes they give us the impulse to try a particular diet. Sometimes they introduce us to healers, doctors, midwives, who will help us care for ourselves. At other times, they actually come and heal us in our sleep. I had an experience that does not fall strictly within the category of an ancestor serving as healer, but does demonstrate some of the unusual things that can happen once the intuitive faculties are employed. It was the winter of 1982. I was alone, bedridden, with an upper respiratory disorder. My sinuses were swollen and mucus-filled. I could hardly breathe, and my chest was congested. I had a fever. My muscles hurt. I'd laid down because I was tired, but when I would lay down, I would become sick. I was dizzy. I couldn't think straight. I was too sick to heal myself, I thought, and too stubborn to die. I remember asking the question, what would Mama do if her child was this sick? I asked the question and drifted into near delirious sleep. Some time passed and then I got up. As my feet hit the floor, I noticed varicose veins in my legs, which I do not have, and my muscles were not sore. I got up and felt my hips much larger than they were. It seemed as if I were wearing my mother's body. I went to the kitchen, got some vitamin C tablets, made a steaming pot of mint tea, peeled some garlic, crushed ice in a face cloth. I prepared a number of potion home remedies and took them back to the bedroom. When I sat down on the bed, I became my sick self again, who could barely lean over the bowl to steam my head clear and had trouble lifting the vitamin C tablets to my mouth. I took Mama's home remedies and I laid back down. I was still sick, but I was better. A few hours passed and again I became Mama and ministered to the child. This went on until sunrise. I went to sleep then and got up around noon feeling fit as a fiddle. I talked with my sister later that week. She said that for reasons unknown to her, she parked her car across the street from my house that night and just sat there, watching the house. She fell asleep and didn't drive off until about 8 in the morning. This cannot be called an Igun experience because my mother is still in her body. But maybe she sensed that I was in distress and projected her intelligence to my aid. Perhaps she prompted my sister to act as guardian. She's always admonishing us to take care of each other. I am not interested in strict classification of these experiences. I just want to prepare you for the wondrous things that can happen. I have said that the ancestors function as guides, warriors, and healers. These rules are not mutually exclusive of each other. A given ancestor may act in any number of combination of these capacities. It depends on what the person was like during her lifetime and on what work she was doing in the spirit world. Was your grandmother a seamstress? Yes. Then take her shopping with you. She'll lead you to the best bargain, the most attractive, durable, and low-cost clothing. You'll have to acquaint her with your style and color preferences, but you should also pay attention to hers. Was Papa a handyman? Yes. Then take him with you when you go house hunting. He can sense the bad wiring, leaky pipes, and deteriorating foundation of the place. He'll steer you toward a better house and then suggest ways to make necessary repairs. Having trouble dieting. Perhaps your great aunt realizes now that her heart attack was due to wrong diet. Perhaps she will help you keep to your diet as a part of her work in the spirit world. You don't know how much they are willing to help you until you contact them. Building the shrine. The first step in communicating with your ancestors is building a shrine. Your ancestor's shrine is an all-purpose altar. By adding different things in varying proportions, it can become a shrine for any element or attribute you desire. Meditation, space, abundance altar, oracle chamber, whatever you desire. One of my greatest pleasures is witnessing the variety of altars built by members of my extended family. Here, everyone's artistic ability comes out. People mold, carve, arrange, and combine until they have an altar that is useful and pleasing. Shop in the mother's market for altar objects, driftwood, seashells, stones, and so on. Begin to see the beauty in things that you might have called trash before. Understand that they, the ancestors, are in the whimpering rocks, and bring them home. Altars move themselves, inspire you to move them. From room to room, change levels, take on different dimensions. Following our guidelines. Following our guidelines for building Igun altars. Use these guidelines initially, but know that once you contact your Iguns, they will give you new instructions. Also, I am assuming that your house is cleaned. The smallest altar. If you live in a studio apartment or a room or any small space, the smallest altar is your cup of tea. It consists of a piece of white cloth, a crystal chalice filled with water, and a tablespoon of anisette, white rum or white wine. This water is called spirit water, a white candle and 4 stones. You will also need family pictures. Place the stones in 4 corners, the spirit water chalice center, the candle in front of it, and pictures of your family members behind it. Food offerings can be put on either side of the chalice or directly in front of the picture. The only place you cannot put it is on top of the chalice. Never put food on top of the chalice. This is a humble altar. But your ancestors understand your limitations. If they want a bigger altar, they will help you find a bigger space. It is better to construct a small altar and begin the attunement between you than you wait for more space. The 9-day altar. Now, the 9-day altar is constructed at the time of a family member surrenders the last breath. This altar can be built within the space of a larger altar or in another room specifically for this member. If the departure of this member is your inspiration for taking up Ogun work, then build and use this altar first and expand on it later for general use. Regardless of its future, this altar is designed to send comfort to the recently expired member. Use a piece of white cloth, preferably a piece of garment belonging to the Igun. Tear the cloth so that the edges are stringy and fringed. Think of this fringed end as da, in the form of nerve endings connecting your intelligence with that of a new ancestor. Place 4 stones in the 4 corners. If there are stones from the Igun's yard or house, they have more power. If not, simply wash some stones in natural water and breathe on them before placing them on your altar. Now place the chalice with spirit water in the center of the altar and surround it with 8 clear glasses of plain water. This is the circle of waters. If the ancestor was a Christian in this life, place a crucifix in the chalice. If not, a simple X or a cross for the 4 directions will suffice. The Egyptian Ankh or any other symbol representing death and resurrection that the Igun will recognize can be used. Place an image, a picture, or drawing of the Igun in front of the circle of waters. Place flowers behind the circle of waters. Offerings of food and certain tools, favorite jewels, and other materials that the Igun may need on the other side of the veil can be placed on either side of the circle of waters. The important action you will take is this. Every day, for the next 9 days, you will place a white candle on top of the image and bid the Igun farewell. Of course, the other option is to visit the cemetery each day for 9 days after burial. In this case, you will bring candles and flowers and sit in front of the earth womb, grave, and have lunch with the Igun. If you are unusually uncomfortable in the cemetery, don't go in. If you are comfortable there, just be sure to enter and leave with respect. The outdoor altar. Now, some people have beautiful gardens and private yards. If you have been so blessed, perhaps you will want to construct an altar in the garden. In this case, simply mark off the space with rocks. Place the chalice of spirit water in the center and surround it with fruit, leaves, and a piece of wood. Stick your candles in the earth in front of the chalice and bid the Igun farewell. The elaborate indoor altar. My favorite altar is the elaborate indoor altar. Choose a corner in a private room, assuming the house has been cleaned. Lay brown or dark green fabric on the floor to represent the earth, and stabilize it with 4 stones in the corners. Now place the circle of waters in the center. Place flowers wherever it pleases you. Get 9 white candles and 1 7-day black candle. Place the black candle in front of the circle of the waters and the 9 white candles around the outside of the circle. Distribute images of the Iguns at various places on the altar and place images of living relatives on the wall above the altar. You have a basic altar. Now you can elaborate as much as you'd like. Here are some suggestions. The earth pot. A soup tureen or a covered casserole dish containing earth from your place of birth, as many places as you can get earth from. My personal pot contained Mississippi clay, Mount St. Helens ash, dirt from the shrine of Yemiya in Lefi, Nigeria, black sand from Maui, Hawaii, mud from the Amazon River in Brazil, and from the Witches Museum in Salem. A rock basket. This is a basket of rocks from various places, and I have rocks from every continent except China. Collected waters. Small jars of water from various places. I have a wonderful collection of ocean rain and river water. A bowl of grains. A large bowl containing rice, wheat, oats, millet, corn, and so on. An herb pot. A pot of sweet-smelling potpourri. Be sure to add fresh tobacco, cedar, and sage to your herb pot. A vessel of shells, a wide-mouthed jar filled with ocean water and seashells, or river water and pebbles. Natural wood sculptures. Everywhere you will find pieces of wood that have been intricately carved by nature. A collection of feathers. A random collection of feathers can be really beautiful when placed in a vase or stuck through the handles of a cup. Check in at the pet store or costume shop. And a bag of bones. A burlap bag of beef, pork, lamb, fish, and chicken bones. Now arrange these objects on the altar in a way that makes you feel good about them. Voila! You have a beautiful altar. Some people say, I'm not good at altar building, and that's only because they are thinking of it as a task. If you're having trouble, just set a glass of spirit water and a candle in the area and gaze until the altar tells you how to build it. Everything we've mentioned have been only suggestions. I'm amazed at how much of what we call interior decorating is really just subconscious altar building. I've been in homes of people who swear they are not the least bit spiritual, yet I find grandma's picture standing next to a lovely bouquet on a hand-crocheted doily and the lamp nearby. All that's needed is a glass of water. Whatever your choice of altars, understand that as soon as it is built, it becomes a sacred space, a space between the physical and spiritual world where the eguns and the living can communicate in peace. A question of reverence. Most of us are the children of former slaves, migrant workers, and immigrants. This fact has significance on 3 levels. 1, it means that the names of our ascendants are probably lost to us beyond mother's mother. 2, many of us have adopted people into the family who were not originally of the blood. 3, we must reconsider carefully the question of who is not revered. Personally, I find it difficult to reject because of their suicide, the slaves who leapt into the ocean during the Middle Passage, or to abandon the suicides of the Nazi concentration camps. These souls may indeed be in a ghost-like state, bitter, shocked, dishonored. My way of dealing with them has been to give them a reverent distance. An offering is made for them by the side of a river, and the river is asked to heal their spirits. Then on All Souls Day, November 2nd, we have a ritual for our unknown ancestors, in which they are given the most respectable Egyptian burial. Here is a word of caution. When doing rituals for the unknown ancestors, take care with concentration. These souls have been waiting a long time to reincarnate. You must plainly state that you are not opening your womb to them unless, of course, you want to have a child. Dispelling unwanted eguns. We can be sympathetic with those eguns who departed under painful circumstances, but what about those who were walking terrors in this life? The Nazi uncle, the sadistic grandmother, the incestuous father. These are the people we don't want to hear from ever again. In this case, make a list of their names and place the list on a biodegradable paper plate. Cover the list with a pile of 7 different fruits and put a black dispelling candle in the corner of the fruit. Or put a black dispelling candle in the center of the fruit. Take the plate for a long ride away from your house. Go to a place in the woods or near a large body of water that is not popular, where people seldom visit. When you place the offering, do not light the candle. Give the Igun a lecture stating clearly that you do not wish to contact, and you hope they will learn how to conduct themselves in the spirit world. Turn your back on the offering. Ask the spirits of the forest, ocean, wind to help cleanse those souls. Make them fit for re-entry into the Da, but state clearly that you will not help. Walk away and never look back. Go home by a different route and never return to that spot. When you get home, take a bath in heavily salted water and forget about such people. If you do not call their names, they will not bother you. A question of judgment. But before you go running off to desolate places, examine yourself carefully. Whose names are on that list? Are they the names of maniacs or just relatives who didn't like your lifestyle? If they are maniacs, go ahead. But if you put somebody's name down there just because you didn't like her or him, stop. Do not pass go. I suggest that you put the don't likes with your known ancestors and ask that forgiveness and understanding visit you both. I had this problem with my father's mother. I remember her as a mean, stingy, snuff-spitting old woman who visited us only as a spy. However, she who whispers insisted that I give the old woman a place of respect on my altar. A few years passed, and one day my mother volunteered some stories that portrayed my grandmother as her ally. Practice a little humility so that you too will be fairly judged. Another thing, your mother may righteously belong on this reject list. But there are times when she must be named in magical work. At these times, she is not being revered or called on, but simply recognized as the vehicle through which you entered this life. It is an old Black belief that the child chooses the mother. My Black sister, you may recall your mother's reaction at the time you errantly said, "I did not ask to come here." She probably swept you and swept the floor with your behind. And how many times has she said to you, "I gave you life, goddammit, and I'll take it away"? People who view this attitude as child abuse do not understand its origin. Our African cultural retention strongly resists sassing our elders. They are almost ancestors and will one day have the power to affect your life even more from the other side of the veil. I'm not saying you should let your mother dominate you. No one has that right. And dictators will soon learn. I am simply trying to throw some light on a cultural confusion. Another serious problem for Black Americans is the question of whether to revere that European in the woodshed. Under slavery, the master had ruthless access to the slave woman. He could rape her at will and frequently did. If he was a rapist, take him out to the woods. In my own case, I'm told that my mother's grandfather, the Frenchman Silas, maintained a common law marriage with Rachel. So I thank him for my sweet coffee skin.